A woman who walked backward ruined an entire town in Colorado. Anyone who investigated her disappeared without a trace. Federal agents sealed her house after hearing screams beneath the floor, but one little boy secretly entered her room at 2:17 a.m. and discovered something buried underground waiting to escape. Then he vanished too. Nobody in Blackwood could explain when Evelyn Mercer first appeared. One winter morning, security cameras captured a tall woman in a black coat walking backward through the center of town while snow fell around her. She never turned around, never stumbled, never blinked at the cars passing inches from her body. At first, people laughed. Then people started disappearing. A college professor from University of Colorado tried studying her behavior. Gone within 48 hours. A journalist investigating her home vanished after uploading one final voice recording filled with screaming and dirt scraping beneath the floorboards. Two federal agents entered her property in the middle of the night. Neither was ever seen again. The government sealed off her neighborhood, but rumors spread faster than fear. People whispered that Evelyn lived opposite to human nature itself. She spoke backward, slept standing upright, smiled during funerals, and cried whenever children laughed. But the worst rumor was hidden beneath her bedroom, because every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., neighbors heard digging underground, and one curious little boy was about to discover what the entire country feared most. If you think Evelyn Mercer was human, you haven't heard the real story yet. The town of Blackwood sat between frozen mountains and endless pine forests, the kind of quiet American town where everyone knew each other's secrets before sunrise. Nothing unusual ever happened there until January 14th, 2009. At exactly 6:12 a.m., the town's traffic cameras captured a woman walking backward down Hollow Creek Road during a blizzard. She wore a long black coat thin enough for summer weather, yet snow melted before touching her skin. Sheriff Daniel Harlow first reviewed the footage after several drivers reported nearly hitting a reverse-walking woman near the highway bridge. At first, he assumed drugs or mental illness. But when officers located her standing outside a closed diner, things became stranger. She answered every question incorrectly. What's your name? Tomorrow. Are you hurt? Finished. Where do you live? Underneath. The officers noticed she never faced them directly. Even while speaking, her body remained turned away. Her neck twisted farther than seemed humanly possible. The woman eventually identified herself as Evelyn Mercer. No identification. No fingerprints in federal databases. No missing person report. Nothing. Within days, residents noticed terrifying patterns surrounding her behavior. Whenever church bells rang in town, Evelyn screamed uncontrollably. When funerals occurred, witnesses saw her smiling faintly from distant street corners. She entered grocery stores only when empty and purchased strange items: salt, dead roses, bleach, sewing needles, and bags of dirt. But the real fear began after 11-year-old Connor Hale followed her home one snowy afternoon, because Connor later told his mother something nobody could explain. There are voices under her house. Connor Hale could not sleep after following Evelyn Mercer home. For 3 nights, the 11-year-old sat awake in his bedroom inside his family's cabin near Pine Ridge Forest, staring at the snow-covered woods outside his window. Every time he closed his eyes, he remembered the sound beneath Evelyn's house. Scratching. Slow scratching under the floorboards. His mother blamed horror movies. His father blamed imagination. But Connor knew what he heard. Voices. On the 4th night, he finally confessed everything. He told his parents how he secretly followed Evelyn through the woods after school, how she walked backward the entire way without once turning around, how birds stopped singing when she passed. and how the old house she lived in looked abandoned long before she entered it. But the worst part came after sunset. Connor claimed he crawled beneath the rotting porch and heard whispers underground. Not one whisper, hundreds. Some cried for help, some begged to be let out, and one voice repeatedly whispered, "She keeps them below." His father immediately contacted Sheriff Daniel Harlow, who reluctantly agreed to inspect the property the next morning. By sunrise, 3 deputies accompanied him to Evelyn Mercer's isolated home near Blackwood's abandoned mining trail. The house itself looked wrong. Every window was covered from the inside with black fabric. Dead animals hung from tree branches surrounding the property, and strange symbols were carved into the frozen mud around the foundation. Deputy Marcus Reed knocked first. No answer. The sheriff pushed the door open slowly. Inside, every clock ticked backward. Family photographs hung upside down. An entire house smelled like wet soil. Then Deputy Reed heard it. A faint knocking sound beneath the floor. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more knocks. As if someone buried underground was trying desperately to escape. Sheriff Daniel Harlow ordered his deputies to search the house carefully. But the deeper they moved inside, the colder the air became. Frost coated the walls, even though the fireplace burned brightly in the living room. Every mirror inside the home had been turned toward the wall, as if Evelyn Mercer feared her own reflection. Deputy Marcus Reed noticed something disturbing almost immediately. There were no signs Evelyn actually lived like a normal human being. The kitchen refrigerator contained only jars of muddy water and raw animal hearts wrapped in newspaper. The dining table was covered in handwritten pages filled with backward sentences no one could understand. And every clock inside the house displayed different times, all moving in reverse. Then they reached the hallway. At the very end stood a white wooden door chained shut from the outside. Connor Hale, waiting nervously beside his parents near the entrance, pointed directly at it. That's where the voices came from. Sheriff Harlow approached cautiously. The floor beneath the door was stained black, and dirt slowly pushed outward through the cracks like something underground was breathing. Deputy Reed touched the handle. Instantly, a woman's scream exploded through the house. Not from inside the room, from upstairs. The deputies rushed upward with weapons drawn and found Evelyn standing backward in the hallway ceiling corner, her body bent unnaturally like a spider. Her eyes were rolled completely white. Then she spoke in a calm voice that did not sound human. "If you open that room, they will remember you." The lights inside the house suddenly died. Complete darkness swallowed the hallway, and beneath the floorboards, dozens of voices began screaming at once. The screaming stopped the moment the lights returned. Deputy Marcus Reed was gone. 1 second, he stood beside Sheriff Harlow in the upstairs hallway. The next second, there was nothing left except his flashlight rolling slowly across the wooden floor. No footsteps, no broken windows, no sound of escape, just silence. The remaining deputies searched every inch of the house in panic while Connor Hale's parents dragged him outside crying. Sheriff Harlow radioed for backup, but even experienced officers arriving at the property later that night admitted something inside the home felt deeply wrong. Deputy Reed's body was never found. What terrified investigators most was the footage recovered from his body camera. For the first 23 minutes, everything appeared normal. Officers searched rooms while Evelyn Mercer stood motionless downstairs, facing the wall backward. Then the camera suddenly glitched with violent static. A whisper filled the recording. "Don't let her turn around." Deputy Reed began breathing heavily. The footage showed him separating from the others and walking alone toward the chained bedroom door downstairs. The knocking beneath the floor grew louder with every step. Then the whispers changed. The voices beneath the house started speaking directly to him. "Marcus, help us. She buried us alive." The deputy reached for the chain around the bedroom door, and the camera captured something horrifying behind him. Evelyn Mercer, standing inches away without making a sound, her mouth stretched unnaturally wide, her jaw hanging far lower than humanly possible. Then the footage ended. After the recording leaked online, national media descended upon Blackwood. Paranormal investigators, conspiracy theorists, psychologists, and federal agents flooded the town searching for answers. But anyone who tried studying Evelyn Mercer too closely soon discovered the same terrifying truth. People who investigated her disappeared. Within 2 weeks, Federal Bureau of Investigation agents arrived in Blackwood under direct orders from Washington. The disappearance of Deputy Marcus Reed had already become national news, but leaked footage from his body camera turned the case into a full federal investigation. Leading the operation was Special Agent Naomi Carter, a behavioral analyst known for dismantling cult organizations and high-profile serial crime networks. Unlike the terrified locals, Carter refused to believe in curses or paranormal stories until she met Evelyn Mercer herself. The interview took place inside Blackwood's temporary containment facility beneath the sheriff's station. Evelyn sat backward in a metal chair, wrists chained, head tilted toward the ceiling lights without blinking. Agent Carter began with simple questions. Where were you born? Below. Why are people disappearing? They are waking up. Who's beneath the room? Evelyn smiled. The unfinished. Every investigator inside the room felt the temperature suddenly drop. Then Agent Carter noticed something deeply unsettling. Evelyn never answered after hearing the questions. She answered before they were fully spoken, as if she already knew every sentence beforehand. The interview ended abruptly when surveillance monitors across the station malfunctioned simultaneously. Lights flickered, radios blasted distorted whispers, and every digital clock inside the building began counting backward. Then came the emergency call. Another person had disappeared. Professor Leonard Voss from University of Denver, the nation's leading linguistic expert studying Evelyn's backward speech patterns, vanished from his hotel room overnight. Agents found only 3 things left behind: his overturned wheelchair, a trail of wet dirt leading into the bathroom, and a sentence written backward across the mirror in blood. She is not the door. She is the lock. That night, Agent Naomi Carter reviewed every missing person's file connected to Evelyn Mercer. 23 disappearances. No survivors. No bodies. But one detail connected every victim. Each person had attempted to enter the chained bedroom before vanishing forever. While federal agents sealed roads surrounding Blackwood, 11-year-old Connor Hale became obsessed with Evelyn Mercer. The adults feared her. Connor studied her. From his bedroom window, overlooking the frozen woods, he secretly tracked her movements every night using his father's hunting binoculars. What began as curiosity slowly became terror, because Evelyn Mercer was never alone. Every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., Connor watched shadow-like figures standing motionless around her house. Tall, thin shapes that disappeared whenever headlights crossed the trees. Sometimes they looked human, sometimes they did not. And always, Evelyn walked backward among them, carrying a metal bucket filled with dirt. One night, Connor followed her again. Snowstorms covered the forest as he hid between pine trees near the property. He watched Evelyn disappear inside her house while the shadow figures stood guard outside like silent soldiers. Then Connor heard it, digging, loud digging beneath the house. For nearly an hour, the sound continued. Metal scraping dirt, heavy breathing, weak crying underground. Finally, around 3:04 a.m., the digging stopped. Connor slowly crawled closer to the house and peeked through a broken basement window. Inside the candlelit room, Evelyn stood beside a massive hole carved into the floorboards. The pit stretched downward into complete darkness, and something was climbing upward from inside it. Connor only saw part of the face before stumbling backward in horror. Human skin, no eyes, a mouth stitched completely shut. Then Evelyn suddenly stopped moving. Her head tilted slowly toward the basement window, toward Connor. Even from outside, the boy heard bones cracking as her neck twisted backward farther than humanly possible. And for the first time since arriving in Blackwood, Evelyn Mercer smiled directly at him. Connor Hale never told his parents what he saw in the basement. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping, stopped speaking at school. Every night he replayed the image burned into his mind. The eyeless face crawling from the underground pit beneath Evelyn Mercer's house. But the worst part wasn't the creature itself. It was the expression on Evelyn's face when she saw him watching, like she had been expecting him. Meanwhile, Agent Naomi Carter's investigation uncovered something hidden deep within the archives of Blackwood Historical Society. Buried inside damaged newspaper record from 1938 were reports about an abandoned mining disaster beneath Blackwood's northern forest. 32 miners vanished underground. No bodies were recovered. The tunnels were permanently sealed after survivors claimed they heard voices beneath the earth, calling people deeper into the darkness. One witness described seeing a woman walking backward near the mine entrance days before the collapse. The woman's name in the report froze Carter's blood. Evelyn Mercer. Impossible. The photograph attached to the article showed the exact same woman. Not older, not younger. Exactly the same. That evening, agents searched the abandoned mining tunnels beneath Blackwood and discovered something hidden behind collapsed rock walls. Dozens of old cassette tapes sealed inside military containers marked confidential. The first tape contained distorted audio recorded decades earlier. Heavy breathing, digging sounds. Then a terrified man whispered, "The woman below the mine isn't human. She keeps the dead unfinished." Suddenly screaming erupted through the recording. Men shouting, bones cracking, people begging underground. Then came a final sentence spoken by an unknown female voice. "Do not let her turn around." The tape ended, but Agent Carter noticed one final detail written across the container label. Property of the U.S. government, which meant someone in Washington already knew exactly what Evelyn Mercer was. The discovery of the government tapes changed everything. By morning, armed personnel from Department of Homeland Security arrived in Blackwood and immediately seized control of the investigation from the FBI. Roads were blocked. Internet towers mysteriously failed. Reporters attempting to leave town found their vehicles searched and equipment confiscated. Agent Naomi Carter realized the government wasn't trying to solve the mystery. They were trying to contain it. That night, Connor Hale secretly overheard officers discussing a midnight operation beneath Evelyn Mercer's house. Against every warning, he followed the convoy through the snowy forest. Floodlights illuminated the property while armed agents surrounded the building. For the first time since the investigation began, officers forced open the chained bedroom door downstairs. Inside was almost nothing. A rusted bed frame, blackened walls, and a giant hole carved directly into the floor. But the hole wasn't natural. It was perfectly circular, descending like a tunnel straight beneath the house into darkness too deep for flashlight beams to reach. The smell rising from below nearly made agents vomit. Rotting flesh, wet soil, something ancient. Then they heard movement, not below them, behind them. Evelyn Mercer stood motionless in the bedroom doorway despite being locked inside federal containment miles away only an hour earlier. No one understood how she escaped. An agent raised his rifle. Evelyn whispered softly, "You opened it." Suddenly, the ground beneath the room began shaking violently. The tunnel erupted with screaming. Hundreds of voices crying from below the earth. Then pale human hands burst outward from the dirt walls surrounding the pit, clawing desperately toward the agents as something massive started climbing upward from the darkness beneath Blackwood. The first agent disappeared before anyone could react. One moment, he stood near the tunnel, aiming his rifle downward. The next, dozens of pale hands dragged him screaming into the darkness beneath the floor. Gunfire exploded inside the bedroom as agents opened fire wildly into the pit. But bullets did nothing. The hands kept coming. Rotting fingers burst through the dirt walls, clawing at uniforms, boots, flesh, pulling anyone close enough toward the hole. The screaming inside Evelyn Mercer's house echoed across the frozen forest while floodlights flickered violently outside. Connor Hale watched everything from the trees, and then he saw the thing climbing upward. At first, it resembled a person. Then more bodies emerged attached to it. Human arms fused together. Faces buried inside moving flesh. Dozens of mouths opening and closing silently across its skin. It was as though hundreds of unfinished people had melted into one living creature underground. Agent Naomi Carter froze in horror as the massive figure slowly unfolded itself from the tunnel beneath the house. Every missing person connected to Evelyn Mercer seemed trapped inside it, their faces twisting beneath translucent skin while their muffled screams echoed from within the creature's body. Then Evelyn finally turned around. For the first time since arriving in Blackwood, people saw her face completely. Several agents immediately shot themselves. Others collapsed screaming. Connor only caught one brief glimpse before falling backward into the snow, crying uncontrollably. Her face wasn't human. It moved wrong, like multiple faces trying to exist beneath one layer of skin. Then Evelyn pointed directly at Connor, standing among the trees, and whispered one terrifying sentence. He saw the doorway. After Evelyn Mercer pointed toward the forest, every shadow around the property suddenly moved. Connor Hale ran. Snow crushed beneath his boots as screams and gunfire echoed behind him through the frozen trees of Pine Ridge Forest. But no matter how fast he moved, he kept hearing footsteps behind him. Backward footsteps. Slow. Precise. Getting closer. When Connor finally reached the highway road near Blackwood, he turned around expecting to see Evelyn chasing him. Instead, the forest stood completely silent. Empty. The next morning, federal authorities announced a false public statement claiming a chemical explosion destroyed Evelyn Mercer's property during an illegal cult investigation. The town was placed under permanent quarantine, while surviving agents disappeared into government custody. But Connor knew the truth, because Evelyn Mercer was still alive. For weeks afterward, Connor noticed strange things happening around him. Clocks stopped working whenever he entered rooms. He heard whispering beneath his bedroom floor at night. And sometimes, while walking home from school, he saw people standing completely still facing backward in crowded streets, watching him. Then came the final nightmare. At exactly 2:17 a.m., one freezing February morning, Connor woke to hear scratching beneath his bed, not inside the walls, directly underneath him. A voice whispered softly through the floorboards. "You opened your eyes?" Connor looked down. Dirt slowly pushed upward through the cracks in the wooden floor. Then a pale human hand burst through the boards and grabbed his ankle. Connor screamed as dozens more hands erupted upward from beneath the room, pulling him downward into darkness while backward whispers filled the house. His parents reached the bedroom seconds later, but Connor Hale was gone. No blood, no body, only wet dirt covering the floor, and one sentence written backward across the bedroom wall. The door is open now. Authorities officially declared the Blackwood incident a government fabrication. Records vanished. Witnesses disappeared. News stations stopped reporting the case almost overnight. Today, if you search for Evelyn Mercer online, most results have either been deleted or marked as conspiracy theories. But people in Colorado still whisper about the backward woman. Truck drivers claim they've seen a pale figure walking backward along isolated highways after midnight. Hikers near the abandoned Blackwood mining trails report hearing voices beneath the ground begging for help. And every few years, someone connected to the case mysteriously disappears without explanation. No trace, no evidence, just silence. The most disturbing part? Connor Hale was never found. Not a fingerprint, not a strand of hair, nothing. Yet months after his disappearance, residents across nearby towns reported seeing a young boy standing motionless near storm drains and wooded roads late at night, always facing backward. Some swear he whispers warnings to anyone who walks too close. Don't let her turn around. Others believe something far worse happened beneath Blackwood that night, something the government buried long ago and failed to contain. Because according to the final classified tape recovered from beneath Evelyn Mercer's house, she was never the monster. She was the lock keeping something underground. And now that lock is gone. So if you ever hear scratching beneath your floor at exactly 2:17 a.m., don't answer it. And whatever you do, do not look behind you.